Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I haven't done one of these in a while, but with the updated meta and perk changes to DBD, I wanted to give a quick updated guide to my favorite builds and recommendations for playing the artist. Perks and the baseline mechanic changes have been so fun to test out, but I wanted to make sure that my guides are being updated accordingly since it's been a whole rehaul with the addition of 2 new killers since my last one. One of the questions I get the most when I stream is what would be a good beginner build for the artist. This might be a bit controversial, but I don't recommend any slowdown perks when learning a new killer. You'll end up inflated into an MMR that you can't handle and end up being carried by regression and not your skill of the specific killer. The artist is a moderately tricky killer to master, and I want to make sure you guys are as prepared as you need to be whenever you're in your matches. For beginners, I recommend sticking with aura rating and chase perks as much as possible. The artist is a recon and range killer, and elevating those standpoints of her power will help you immensely while you're trying to figure out how survivors move when swarmed by her crows. I do understand that you most likely won't have all the teachables unlocked, so don't worry. I have builds for default perks, basic teachables unlocked, and more. If you only have default perks and Birdie's teachables, don't worry, there's still some awesome builds that you can run. Fearmonger, Sloppy Butcher, Shattered Hope, and Pentimento is a fun all-around build. With the inclusion of Shattered Hope, you're able to get Pentimento stacks that much easier, especially with the boon meta that's going on. Painraz, Monster Shrine, Jolt, and Iron Grasp is a great build to get the most out of your score chooks, and you can have Jolt for that extra push if you're not able to make it to one. Bitter Murmur, Grim Embrace, Painraz, and Monster Shrine is a great way to gain information as gens are being completed, and the inclusion of Grim Embrace is a great way to get the extra pressure on survivors and either get the Obsession or someone else nearby out of the game. If you only have Birdie plus the 5 free killers available, Trapper, Billy, Wraith, Nurse, and Huntress. These are builds that are in line with the assumption that you only have these teachables unlocked and Birdie is your first purchase killer. Thankfully, there are awesome perks with a great variety of builds. The Natophobia, Nurse is Calling, Bitter Murmur, and Fearmonger is a great build for information and chase since it can help negate the use of exhaustion perks. You can also add on Tinker to take the full advantage out of Fearmonger. Agitation, Monster Shrine, Painraz, and Tinker for full aggression and information. The buff to Monster Shrine is amazing, and Birdie comes with the strongest score chook available, so you're able to elevate it that much more. Huntress's Lullaby, Pentimento, Shattered Hope, and Grim Embrace is a fun way to get value out of Pentimento, and when you have more stacks of Lullaby, you're able to use the failed skill checks as information on where to throw your crows. Brutal Strength, Enduring, Tinker, and Thanatophobia is a great build for burning through chase resources. Survivors are most likely going to W space away from you anyway, so having the quicker recovery is going to feel great. You also have the information from Tinker and the backburner regression of Thanatophobia to help while you're busy. If you have all the teachables unlocked and just got the artist, these are my favorite builds for beginners. Like I mentioned before, aura rating is so much more valuable than the regression because the artist is able to apply pressure to the entire map, and if you're unable to predict where survivors are going, this helps you adjust to that. Lethal Pursuer, I'm All Ears, Floods of Rage, and Barbecue is the best aura rating build in my opinion. You can also switch something out for Nurse's Calling, which really works well on indoor maps. Barbecue is still really nice to use on the artist, and I love getting ranged or staggered hits with the information that I get from it. Lethal Pursuer, Bitter Murmur, Darkness Revealed, and Iron Maiden is a surprisingly fun build on certain maps. Iron Maiden has such a high value on the survivors that keep jumping in and out of lockers to repel crows, and with the combination of Darkness Revealed and Lethal, you can get more value out of the information that you receive from it. On big maps like Mother's Dwelling or Crows, it might be a bit hit or miss, but on maps like Dead Dog or Midwich, it can be super fun. Barbecue, Deadlock, I'm All Ears, and No Way Out is a great build for easing into regression and testing out the waters with your powers against survivors. No Way Out is probably my favorite endgame perk, and it's really nice when you want the extra time in the game. I'm All Ears, Ascension Tactics, Plaything, and Retribution can be a great way to predict where survivors are heading to. Adding Plaything forces survivors off of gens, and Retribution gives you the continuous aura rating, but you can also pair it with Pentimento for a better combination. Ascension is completely underrated in my opinion, and you want to aim crows for choke points for survivors, and this helps so much on the prediction. Thrilling Tremors, Deadman Switch, Painraz, and Floods of Rage is a great way to still utilize Deadman Switch to the best of your abilities. Even if you don't get to hook a survivor on a Painraz hook, you can use the information that you get from throwing Tremors to throw crows to activate Deadman Switch. Once you have the artist's power down and you feel comfortable implementing regression into your builds, I do have a few favorites that I like to pair with information and chase perks for a perfect synergized overall look. In my opinion, it does the artist a bit of a disservice to run full meta, and oftentimes I feel like 4 regression perks is a bit of an overkill. I like to include 1 information, 1 chase perk, 1 regression, and 1 fun or endgame perk in my builds to make sure I'm using all the time in my matches wisely. Perks like Lethal, No Way Out, Floods of Rage, Barbecue, and I'm All Ears are all perfect examples of perks that elevate the artist while making sure you're able to get continuous value throughout the match. My favorite builds are Barbecue, Lethal, Iron Maiden, and Painraz. It's a really generous artist build that gives you regression, information, a great early game, and a nice surprise for cheeky survivors. Barbecue, Floods of Rage, Painraz, Lethal, or Lightborn is my go-to build because I get information and regression from the score chooks, the extra push from Lethal Pursuer and Barbecue, and then Lightborn because it's my favorite perk in the game. Lethal, Floods of Rage, Grim Embrace, and Dark Devotion is super fun. Grim Embrace will give you the aura reading of the Obsession, and you can use Dark Devotion to elevate this since you can injure them from across the map. Merciless Storm, Tinker, Deadman Switch, and Thanatophobia is a fun way to use your crows and interrupt survivors when they're doing gens. Either they finish the gen and you get a hit or a down out of it, or it gets them off of the gen. If you want to pick and choose your own builds, these are the perks that I recommend you pick from the most. I have a tier list that I made in my initial guide, however, there are about 15 to 20 perks that work the best on the artist and stand out the most. Even if a perk you like isn't on here, like save the best for last, it doesn't mean that it's bad on the artist, it's just not something that I typically run. Most regression perks work well on the artist, so it's really a matter of what your preference is, which is why I don't mention them, but personally I like Pain Res or Surge. The perks are Nurse's Calling, Barbecue, Bitter Murmur, Blood Warden, Dead Man's Switch, Deadlock, Discordance, especially paired with Severed Hands, Fearmonger, Grim Embrace, Blood Favor, Pentimento, I'm All Ears, Iron Maiden, Lethal Pursuer, Lightborn or Franklin's, Merciless Storm, No Way Out, Floods of Rage, Thrilling Tremors, and Zension Tactics. It's worth noting that I did also try to research other artist main builds and what everybody uses, but we're all pretty boring and everyone uses a collection of Barbecue, Thanatophobia, Lethal Pursuer, No Way Out, Pain Res, Floods of Rage, and Dead Man's Switch. So, from the top 10 artists in the world, these are the best collection of perks. However, definitely feel free to experiment with builds. Birdie has a lot of different playstyles within her kit, and what works for me may not work for you. These builds are for medium to long range birdie hits, but if you're someone that uses a herding technique and more direct hits, you may not find a lot of value. Overall, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.